The conversation surrounding Austin Reeves is heating up, and it's not hard to see why. He's entering a contract year, and the buzz about what kind of deal he'll command is getting louder by the day. On one hand, you've got people who think he's the second coming of Larry Bird, acting like he's already stamped as one of the all-time greats. And on the other hand, there's a crowd that sees him as expendable, a role player at best, someone you'd ship off for chips and a handshake. But the truth, as it often does, lives somewhere in the middle. Austin Reeves is not a scrub. Let's get that straight. He's not just a feel-good story of a guy who came up the hard way and had a few good games. He's shown enough to prove that he's a legitimate NBA contributor. The numbers, especially when LeBron James is off the floor, speak volumes. We're talking about a guy who has put up around 28 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists in stretches without one of the greatest players of all time next to him. That's not fluky production. That's borderline all-star work. Now sure, doing that over a 5-game stretch isn't the same as holding it down for an entire 82-game season. There's a massive difference between a guy who can flash in moments and a player who carries that kind of load every single night, while being the focal point of the opposing team's game plan. Night in and night out, when you're getting blitzed, doubled, trapped, and forced into bad looks, your game gets tested on a whole different level. But credit where it's due, Reeves has consistently performed when called upon, especially when others have been out. The real question now becomes, how much is he worth? Based on what we're seeing across the league, with similar level players and the current salary cap landscape under the new CBA, you're probably looking at Austin Reeves being worth somewhere between $25 to $30 million a year. That's where most people would draw the line and say, yeah, this makes sense. But when the talk starts pushing into the $35 to $40 million range, then we're stepping into dangerous territory. There have been reports and whispers suggesting he could be aiming as high as $40 million per year. That number, quite frankly, feels like a reach. Let's break this down. The new collective bargaining agreement has made it crystal clear, overpaying guys, especially non-superstars, can cripple your franchise. Gone are the days where you could just toss the luxury tax aside and throw big money at whoever you liked. Now you've got to think about roster flexibility, cap implications, and long-term sustainability. Giving Austin Reeves a $40 million annual deal would essentially be paying him like a top 15 player in the NBA, and he's not that. Not even close. He's a solid player, yes. A consistent piece, yes. But a franchise cornerstone? That's not something he's proven yet. There's also the matter of who he's sharing the court with. If this is the Lakers post-LeBron James, and you're trying to build a new identity around Luka Doncic and whoever else sticks around, you have to ask yourself, can Luka and Austin coexist as your top 2 guys? Can they share the spotlight, the ball, the offensive responsibilities, and still produce at a championship contending level? That's not a rhetorical question. It's a real, pressing issue for the Lakers moving forward. Because if you can tie up $70 or $80 million annually between those 2 players, you need to be absolutely sure that they complement each other, not just statistically, but in terms of play style and mentality. Now, to be fair, Austin Reeves has said all the right things. He's publicly expressed how grateful he is for the Lakers organization, for the opportunity they gave him, for how they've treated his family, and how much he loves being in Los Angeles. He even said that turning down a $14.8 million player option wasn't some wild money grab, but a business decision rooted in trying to find a deal that reflects the work he's put in, not something absurd or over the top. That sounds good. That feels reasonable. But again, it all depends on what his camp really believes he's worth. Because if the thinking is, hey, I could probably get $50 million from a desperate team, so I'll be generous and only ask you for 40, then the Lakers have a serious problem on their hands. That kind of thinking, that kind of contract, would force the Lakers into a corner they might not be able to escape. And we've seen how those deals can sink teams. We've seen other franchises now desperate to offload contracts they regret because of how restrictive the new CBA has become. This is where it gets tricky. If Reeves plays hardball and demands that kind of money, the Lakers might have no choice but to explore a sign-and trade. Because if another team is reckless enough to give him $40+ million and genuinely believes he's a future all-star, then maybe he is better off there. And if he does explode into that 28, 6, and 8 guy every night, full-time, then more power to him. But that's a huge gamble, both for the Lakers and for any team willing to break the bank on him. And while we're on the topic of potential, let's talk about DeAndre Ayton. There's this quiet expectation building that Ayton could naturally evolve into being the third guy on this team. With Luka handling the ball the majority of the time, and Reeves floating between being a secondary creator and floor spacer, Ayton becomes a real X factor. That pick-and-roll combo with Luka, that could be lethal. Ayton has always thrived in that kind of role. Rim running, catching lobs, operating in short roll scenarios. If the Lakers can get the Phoenix Suns version of Ayton, he could very well be the second option in a post-LeBron future. That's the kind of structure you want if you're trying to build sustainably. You get Ayton on a reasonable deal, let's say somewhere in the 18 to 25 million range, and then you lock in Reeves for maybe 30 million. Now you're building a balanced roster, not one top-heavy with contracts that leave you scraping the bottom of the barrel for bench depth. You can't afford to end up in a position where you're paying Reeves 40+ million and then scrambling to find serviceable role players on veteran minimums. Because we've seen what happens. We've seen teams like Phoenix and Milwaukee become so locked into bad deals that they're forced to either stretch players, buy them out, or make desperation trades. And once you're in that situation, it's hard to get out. You start bleeding flexibility, losing picks, and sacrificing your future for contracts you handed out in the heat of the moment. That's what the Lakers need to avoid at all costs. Austin Reeves is a very good regular season player. He gives you effort, he plays hard, and he's one of the few guys on the roster who is consistently available. That's not nothing. Availability matters in this league, especially when you're dealing with superstar injuries and managing workloads. Reeves has shown that when the stars sit, he can take the reins and even carry the team to a win, sometimes against elite competition. We've seen him lead a skeleton crew of Lakers into Boston and walk out with a victory. That speaks volumes. But the playoffs tell a different story. In the postseason, everything tightens up. Matchups are more focused, teams zero in on your weaknesses, and every possession matters. And that's where Reeves hasn't quite lived up to that $35 or $40 million billing. In the regular season, maybe he's worth that. But come playoff time, he has looked more like a $10 million player. And that discrepancy is what makes front offices nervous. You're not paying a guy for his January stat lines. You're paying him to win in May and June. And until Reeves proves he can elevate in the postseason the same way he does when the pressure is off, it's hard to justify going all in on him financially. There's also the chemistry angle that cannot be overlooked. As much as this conversation centers around numbers, contracts, and cap management, basketball is still a game played on the court, and synergy between your stars can make or break a season. The fit between Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves is still largely a mystery. We haven't seen them share the floor consistently enough to know if their games truly complement each other or if they'll step on each other's toes in crucial moments. Luka is ball dominant. He orchestrates everything. The offense flows through him, and for good reason. He's one of the most creative offensive forces the league has ever seen. But what happens when you pair that with a player like Reeves, who's at his best with the ball in his hands, making reads, manipulating defenses, and initiating pick and rolls? Reeves isn't a catch-and-shoot, stand-in-the-corner type of guard. He needs touches. He needs rhythm. And while he can play off the ball and knock down open looks, his value decreases if he's reduced to a mere floor spacer. So the question becomes, how do you maximize both players at the same time? Because if you can't, then what's the point of paying both of them like top-tier contributors? You need to know what you're getting. Are you getting a duo that can operate like Luka and Jalen Brunson once did, where both could create, score, and complement each other without taking away from one another? Or are you going to end up in a situation where Reeves disappears for long stretches and his impact fades into the background? That's where the sample size matters. And unfortunately, this Lakers team might not have enough time or health to fully test the Luka and Reeves pairing this season. LeBron James is still around, and as long as he is, everything runs through him. That changes the dynamic entirely. The presence of a third superstar, especially one as ball-dominant as LeBron, makes it hard to isolate the effectiveness of Luka and Reeves together. Sure, you'll get flashes here and there, But will it be enough to draw real conclusions before the front office has to make a financial decision? That's the gamble. Because once LeBron leaves, whether that's at the end of this season or further down the line, the structure of the team will shift dramatically, and you better hope that the pieces you've paid are capable of leading on their own. The front office is walking a tightrope. On one hand, there's pressure to keep continuity, reward development, and hold on to a player who has become a fan favorite and a dependable piece. On the other, there's the cold reality of team building in today's NBA. If you overpay for a borderline star, you're handcuffing your flexibility. You're saying goodbye to depth, to future moves, to mid-season trades that could elevate your roster. And worse, you're betting on a version of Reeves that might never fully materialize. A version that averages 23, 6, and 6 as a second option on a contender, not just a guy who can light up the box score when the team is shorthanded. You also have to consider the ripple effects. If you pay Reeves $35 or $40 million, what does that do to your pursuit of other role players? What happens when it's time to pay your young guys, or bring in that one missing piece in free agency? What does it mean for your big man rotation? Say you want to keep DeAndre Ayton. He could command anywhere from $20 to $25 million per year if he returns to form. If you're already dishing out superstar-level money to Reeves and max money to Luka, can you afford to give Ayton a competitive deal and still have enough to round out your bench with legitimate contributors? That's why balance is so important. You can't just think about Reeves in a vacuum. You have to think about what the roster looks like around him. You need wings who can defend and hit threes consistently. Not just guys that do it once a week, but real, reliable threats that defenses have to respect. You need energy guys who can rotate, switch, rebound, and hold their own against elite perimeter scorers. That's the only way you make up for Luka and Reeves not being elite defenders themselves. Because let's be honest, no one's confusing either of them for defensive stoppers. You need to build a system that hides their weaknesses and amplifies their strengths. That means guys like Jared Vanderbilt become even more important. That means young wings like Max Christie need to develop quickly. You don't have the luxury to wait years for prospects to blossom when you're investing major money into the core. And if the goal is to win now, with Luka entering his prime, then everything has to line up. The contracts, the chemistry, the coaching. It all has to click. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on. The latest ripple around a Los Angeles Lakers locker room has sparked heated conversations among insiders and fans alike. According to whispers that gained strength this week, forward Cole SWIDER has allegedly broken his silence with a statement that no one quite expected. The young player, known more for his quiet professionalism than for any dramatic outbursts, reportedly confided to close circles that nobody on the roster wants Malik Monk back in purple and gold. The remark, though not officially confirmed, has spread like wildfire through the corridors of the league, creating a storm of speculation. Monk, once a valuable contributor during his time in Los Angeles, left behind a mixed legacy. Flashes of scoring brilliance balanced by questions over consistency, locker room chemistry, and his fit within the Lakers' long-term vision. While many fans have long entertained the possibility of a reunion, SWIDER's words, if true, cast serious doubt on whether such a move would find support inside the team itself. The timing of the rumor is particularly curious. With the Lakers navigating a season of adjustments and still searching for the perfect supporting cast around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, every potential roster shakeup attracts scrutiny. The thought of Monk returning had been quietly circulating, especially as his name appeared in free agency chatter. But if the locker room sentiment aligns with SWIDER's alleged comments, then management faces a delicate decision. Should they prioritize talent acquisition or respect the chemistry that the current roster is trying to build? It is worth noting that SWIDER himself is far from a central figure in the Lakers' hierarchy, which makes the leak even more intriguing. Was this truly his personal view, or does he represent a broader, unspoken consensus within the locker room? In the world of NBA politics, silence often hides more than words reveal, and when silence is broken, it tends to echo louder than intended. For now, the story remains in the realm of rumor, But one thing is certain. If Cole SWIDER's voice reflects the actual pulse of the team, Malik Monk's chances of donning the Laker jersey again may be slimmer than anyone thought. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.